So this is the second video on algebra. We have already covered up what is algebra. That's in the first video. Today's topic is about algebraic expression. You need to understand what is algebraic expression, and we will try to do that today. So for that, again, the board sharing is important. Let me just start with that quickly. So you can see the board in a couple of seconds, I guess. So you need to understand, algebraic expression. In the last session, we have covered up, as you can see over here. I'll just show you also that what is algebra, basically variable constant expression equations, and how to solve these questions. There was some homework I've given you in this question. In this now second video, as I mentioned to you, this is about algebraic expression. So let's write down the heading here: algebraic expression. Algebraic expressions. Now you see, guys, algebraic expression itself is a very important topic, as I already mentioned to you. So firstly, let's say, for example, if I write down if I write something as x plus 5, right? If x plus 5 is there, is this an equation or something else? Think about it. I told you in the last session. Well, again, this is not an equation because I'm not equating it to anything here, right? So an equation is something that you equate to something, like you are equating it to a number or something. But in this one, we are just writing out x plus 5. So this is what we will study today. This is called expression, basically, right? Algebraic expression is a combination of specifically numbers. Okay, what does it means? As I mentioned to you, an algebraic expression. Let me write up here. An algebraic expression here is basically, you can say, is a combination of, let me see, you can see that, yeah, is a combination of, as I mentioned to you, numbers. That's the first thing, numbers. Second is, you can say, variables. All right, you know already what are variables: x, y, z, a, b, c, and operations or operators, basically. And operations, for example, plus, minus, multiply, divide, all of these are operations, basically. For example, like few examples can be there of these of expressions. And what are those examples? Such as, maybe you can write down x plus 5, which I just already told you. Maybe you can write down 2y minus 3. That can be an example one. Example 2, example 3 can be maybe 4a plus 7. So anything that you are not equating to something, so that's basically called expression. These are expressions because they are not having an equals sign, right? That we used to put up in equations, right? So 2x plus 5. Now we will figure out here. Let's say 2x plus 5, if I'll write down here, 2x plus 5. This is 2x plus 5. Here we have to see what is coefficient, what are variables and constant. So basically, if I talk about coefficient, let's say first, coefficient is something, coefficient of x, let's say I'm saying variable x means the number that is attached to it. For example, 2, that's called coefficient of x. So that is basically 2 here, right? And if I talk about what is variable here, like variable is x. So x is basically called as variable here because again it's x, y, z, unknown value. That's variable. And then 5 is basically constant that we have already discussed in the first video itself. Okay, so coefficient tells you how many times the variable is multiplied. I repeat, coefficient tells you how many times a variable is multiplied. So let's say, for example, the next term is that we have right now. Maybe let's take another example over here. 2x or maybe 3x plus 2y minus 5. Okay, now in this again, let's say what is in this, what are terms? We are now covering up terms, basically. How many terms are there in this expression? So if someone asks you that, so this is 1, 2, and 3. How do you know? How do you separate these things? When they have operators between them, then they are basically called, they become a separate term. For example, 3x is one term in here, 2y is another term here. All right. Then you have 5, which is another term here. These are all terms, basically, that you should know. So terms are separated by plus or minus sign, basically. Now you need to also understand when there is one term in an expression, like for example, if I just write down 5x here, okay, if I just write down 5x and that is just one term. So one term, when there is only, we call this as monomial. The name of that is monomial. When then you have the next thing, which is basically, let's say, two terms. Let's say the equation is x plus 3 now. So there are like two terms here. So in this case, this would be called as binomial. What do we call it as? Binomial. Okay. Binomial. Then the third one is, let's say, for example, we write down as maybe x plus y plus 2. There are three terms here. So in case of three terms, this is called trinomial. What is this called again? Trinomial. Trinomial. So just see in the expression how these operators are basically separating these things, and that is monomial, binomial, trinomial. One term is monomial, two terms will be binomial, three terms will be trinomial. Don't, maybe some students get panic with the names as according to my experiences with the students. But just count the terms and you know which, whether it is a monomial, binomial, or a trinomial. Okay. Now you can just I'm assigning you some questions, figure out things for us. For example, let's say we have another question here. Let's say we have 2x plus 7. You need to tell me what is coefficient, what is variable, what is constant. Then another term can be in this. If you talk about this one, obviously 2 is what? 2 is coefficient, x is variable, and 7 is constant. So you can write down that. I mean, this is pretty simple. So I'm just, 2 is again coefficient because it is attached to x, telling you how many times it is there, like getting multiplied with x, attached to x, whatever you want to say. Variable is x here, unknown value, and constant is 7. Very simple. If someone asks you, let's say, how many terms are there in this given equation, in this given expression, sorry, you will say obviously two terms. So two terms is called binomial. So this is actually a binomial. Similarly, let's say we have 3x plus 5y minus 2. In this, if someone asks you how many terms are there, obviously 3. So what is this called? Trinomial. This is called trinomial. Okay. If I write down something as, let's say, x plus 20, or maybe, yeah, x plus 10 is equals to 20. And maybe people will ask you that whether this is an expression or an equation. Now, because I have substituted this equals to something, guys, this becomes an equation because it has an equal to sign. Remember that. Okay. Equal to sign does that. So that's all for today's video. I think we have covered what algebraic expressions are, variable, coefficients, and constant terms, types of expressions we can have, binomial, monomial, binomial, trinomial, the terms and all. So in homework, you can just maybe try doing this question that I'm going to be putting up quickly over here for you guys. And you can check over, maybe identify the parts here. Okay, identify means what is coefficient and all. Identify the parts here. In this you can check maybe 3x plus 4 and b is 5y minus 2, and then this is the first one. Second is, let's say, find out number of terms here. Number of terms here. In here, let's say a is x plus 2 and b is 3a plus 5b plus 6. Okay, pretty simple one. How many number of terms are there? All right, then this is all very basic for you, and you can always do that, cover up that. That's all for the session. I will hopefully catch you in the next one. Take care. See you in the third one.